Test 1, 2.
Are we ready to go? Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the candidate forum tonight. My name is Rick Gallos. I am the chair of the Legislative Committee for the Chamber of Commerce. Erin Cribble is here. She's going to be assisting us with timekeeping tonight. And yes, our goal this evening is to give the voters a chance to see the candidates. Here's some questions that we have prepared for them. And hopefully you can learn a little more so you're well educated for voting next month. Tonight's program we have been put together by the Chamber, and we, the Legislative Committee, has put together some good questions, I think, for the candidates. They're not easy questions, which we're not trying to stump anybody, but we want to pick their brain and see what kind of answers they give us. That's the goal. So we will proceed here shortly. We'll go through some rules here so you kind of know what the agenda is for the evening. Of course, we will move this along as quickly as we can. Each candidate will be asked the same questions, and they will have 2 minutes to answer each question. The questions have, like I said, have been prepared by the Wells County Chamber of Commerce Legislative Committee. There will be no questions or dialogue occurring between the candidates or the audience tonight. We ask the candidates that you do not debate with each other. Just simply ask or answer the questions, and hopefully we'll have no mudslinging or any of that kind of monkey business. If there is, we got people coming in to take care of that. No, just warning. Okay, the audience has submitted a few questions. If we have time at the end, we will try to get to those, but we know we are very tight on schedule, so the candidates will be sticking around directly afterwards. If you have a specific question that you would like to ask one or any of them, I'm sure that would be perfectly fine. So I think that's it, and we're ready to go, and we will start off with opening comments. And Melanie, I think you're up first.
All right. Thank you, Aaron, and members of the Chamber for hosting this event. Thank you also to my fellow candidates for being here, as a full slate of candidates for this election proves this room, I am sure, were at the Bluffton Street Fair. And during the parades, you saw my 4 neighbor boys, Emmett, Otto, Whit, and Little Gil, walking for my campaign. They are neighbors and friends, and I have watched them playing in their yard or heading out for school as I go to work daily. It reminds me of my own childhood days, playing and riding my bike around Bluffton, making sure, though, I was home by supper time. The reason I am so passionate for serving this community is because I want Emmett, Otto, Whit, and Gil to have the same opportunities in Bluffton and you in this room have had. I want those boys to grow up in a safe city where they can find good jobs, affordable housing, and raise their own family. I have served as your council at large woman for the last few years for one reason, for the love of Bluffton. This is a great city in which to live and work, making Bluffton a wonderful place to call home. Our daily lives have the benefit of outstanding schools. Jobs are plentiful, and in fact, industry needs more workers to fill open positions. Your city services are doing well with safe water to drink. Our electrical grid supplies needed power, and our sewage treatment plant is in full operation. Your daily lives also find your garbage and recycling picked up, unlike a city to the north. We continue to fix and repave streets each summer, and in the winter, the city street crews are out plowing your snow. As Bluffton and Wells County continue to grow, the city has positioned itself to assist that growth in industry and market rate housing development. We have laid the foundation for improvements for both water and sewer. We continue with advancements on quality of life with trails and downtown revitalization, all the while continuing to equip the police and fire departments in order for us to remain a safe, family-friendly community. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rick Elwell, and I'm grateful to be on the stage with you here tonight. I'd like to take just a minute to share a little bit of my background and my heart so that maybe you'll see why I'm seeking this position for council at large. My wife Patty and I moved to Bluffton in 1989. We have 3 kids. We have 2 adult children who now bought houses and live here in Bluffton, and we have a 13-year-old at home. I have a degree from Vincennes University in electronics engineering technology. We've worked here for many years too. Patty spent 24 years at the News Banner, and for the past 15 years, I've co-owned and operated my own Bluffton-based business, Stylus Technologies. We attend Life Community Church, where I currently serve as part-time staff technical director, where I lead and coordinate 18 volunteers to serve on the technical teams there. I've also served as a director on the Bluffton Street Fair Board for many years. You could say that serving is a core belief of mine. This position on the council is a seat of service. The seat is also a position of leadership. You can see this election is as much about leadership as it is about experience. My leadership experience goes back many years. When we first started Stylus Technologies, we started from scratch. We didn't have investors. We didn't have hardly any capital to operate from. Every job that we were awarded was the next job that paid our checks. When you wake up every day and realize that you're responsible for putting enough money in the bank to pay the payroll on Friday, you get a unique outlook on things. It was tough. We made some mistakes, but we learned from those mistakes, and today we've grown to a staff of 8 employees. I'd like to take my experience and my leadership ability and put it to good work for this council. I believe that we need to grow as a community. Growth and success run the same parallel. However, we need responsible growth. We need to be able to pay our bills at the end of the day. Tonight we'll talk about growth. We'll talk about jobs. We'll talk about housing and infrastructure. And we'll talk about the quality of life. We have a team that's poised to bring a new vision to Bluffton, and I'm proud to be part of this effort in this process. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Tom Gibson, and I'm running for City Council District 1. I thank you for coming. Thanks for the Chamber Forum and having the opportunity to get us all together. My main motivation for running is to continue to serve the citizens of Bluffton as I have for the past 48 years. I feel I bring a unique perspective to the District 1 seat. Having served as a teacher and a principal for 43 years in the Bluffton-Harrison School District, I have had the privilege of watching young people grow into adults and becoming leaders of the community. I have also had the privilege of being part of the Northern Wells part of this community. I graduated from Lancaster Central. My son graduated from Norwell High School. My mother taught at Rock Creek and Lancaster, and I even carried a petition in favor of the construction of the new Lancaster Elementary School. As I've talked to voters throughout District 1, I sense a divide between the Lancaster Township and the Harrison Township part of Bluffton. If that is the case, I would hope that my experience, that I could bring a logical compromise to any of the relevant issues. I look at the city of Bluffton in its entirety. Hence, on my campaign slogan, it's #OneBluffton. If I'm elected, I hope to base my decisions solely on what's good for the entire city. I think we need to continue to look at our infrastructure as well as our parks and recreational facilities, and particularly north of Bluffton.
Thank you, Chamber, for hosting this event and for all of you attending. My name is Roger Thornton. I'm running for District 1 City Council. My background is in public education. My wife Marge is here. We have 3 sons. During my time living in Bluffton in Lancaster Township, I too have become aware of a concern that there is somewhat of a divide. That divide, as most people in Lancaster Township view it, is one of resources and equity. If you talk about equity and fairness, you probably have the bottom line of my campaign. I've been an executive director of the Superintendent's Association, been a superintendent for 25 years. My last district was in Palatine, Schaumburg, Hoffman Estates, Illinois, where we had 13,500 kids and 2,200 employees. My background says that leadership is responsible to see that all have equal opportunity and are treated equally. That means in resources, that means in amenities, that means in facilities, it means in opportunity. I think many are aware that a divide might be there, but not too many have done much to try to get that equity in place. I've spent the last year working diligently towards Lancaster Park and proud of the efforts we've made. Look forward to see us moving forward with that. My bottom line goal for running for this office is to see our population grow, to see housing opportunities improved, to see sewers extended and water extended, and begin, if you might think of it, to bring a modern-day Willowbrook to our community. We need a large development that serves a lot of kids and a lot of people who want to move back. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Josh Hunt. I'm running for Bluffton City Council District 2. I'd like to thank my wife, Stacy, and my 3 teenagers for being a part of this process. It's been very interesting to watch them see the process, ask questions, and grow in their understanding of what this community is about. I'd like to thank the Chamber for hosting the event. I'd like to thank Zach over here in the corner for encouraging me consistently. This wasn't the first time he asked for me to be up here, so I appreciate that. Appreciate you getting me out of my comfort zone. I would like to publicly thank friends that donated to our campaign. It's very humbling for people to give outside of their family to move this city forward. A bachelor's in business and a concentration in accounting. Been the general manager at Craigville Appliance for 15 years, family-owned and operated business. Some strengths that I think that I can offer. I manage many different types of personalities. I have experience in payroll and taxes. I have experience in financial analysis. I operate a team that works in a measured environment. We set goals. So we start with the finish line, and then we figure out how to engineer the journey. The city of Bluffton has a ton of potential in Northeast Indiana expansion. Just like in business, though, our expenses go up, and I feel like anybody can attest that's in the city and operate in the city, that the expenses go up for a city as well. So we have to grow our income for our business to help mitigate those raises and expenses, and I think a city does too as well. So we want to share that burden and show the growth for this community. I believe that my skill set is worth considering for your vote. Thank you. Pass that back.
Yes, you can hear me. Can you hear me? My name is Nancy Morrissey Lights, and I am running for City Council in District 2. I have been married to Larry Lights for 25 years. I have a marketing degree with the emphasis in retailing. I owned my own business. I worked in our family shoe store. I've been in Bluffton for 40 years. I feel like I have a good feeling for this community and where this community should be headed. That's a good reason why I wanted to put my hat in the ring and go out for the city council position. I want to stay engaged and active in my community. I want to keep Bluffton a safe and a welcoming place for families. As I've been canvassing, I have discovered that a lot of the people I'm talking to are satisfied with what they have in Bluffton. The main things I hear are we need more restaurants, we need shops, and entertainment. So I want to try and focus on those directions. Another thing, as far as future, we have looked at housing. Workforce housing is a term that you'll hear put out there. People that are here and working need affordable housing, and it goes hand in hand. There's lots of jobs, but there's nowhere to live, so we need the housing, then they'll be here for the jobs. We have an award-winning parks department, and I want to continue to work with them and encourage the growth of the River Greenway to the west, the interurban trail to the north, and optimize the use of our existing parks and recreational facilities. I want to keep working with the arts center here. It's growing. The ballet, the theater, the music scene is all very strong and growing. So I think we need to focus on building the city that we want to see. If we're happy here, people will want to come here and visit also.
Good evening. My name's Mike Morrissey. I'm running for City Council, District 3. I've been a member of the City Council since 1996. I am employed at Heidi Chrysler and service manager there since 2009. Started out there in 1996. I, like my sister Nancy, grew up in our family business in Decatur and Bluffton, and so I'm very familiar with what it takes to make things happen, especially when we talk about our downtown. And married to Jill Flogger, Jill Flogger Morrissey, who owns her own beauty salon, 426 West Spring Street, which is in District 3. So I have a lot of ties to the community that go back through my parents and grandparents. One of the things that I've been proud of in my term on the City Council is the ability to listen to concerns as they're brought to a City Council meeting or our attention in whatever form. And that's a key element. We have to hear concerns and then act on those concerns, not just to be reactive. We need to have plans in place for growth and the well-being and safety of our community. So if elected, that's what I plan to do, and hope to have a good turnout on November 5th. Thank you very much.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to tell you a little more about myself and my vision for Bluffton. I am Janella Stronzak. I am running to represent District 3 of Bluffton as your City Councilwoman. I am a lifelong Wells County resident living just outside the city during my childhood. My husband and I moved to the city when we married and have resided in Bluffton for the almost past 15 years. We have raised our children in this community and will continue to raise our 3 children here. My husband works in various roles in law enforcement and also teaches the criminal justice program at Indiana Tech. I have a degree in registered nursing and have held emergency medical technician certification since 2010. I have worked firsthand with many of the citizens of the city and through various volunteer organizations have helped address many individual needs. Through the various volunteer programs that I am associated with, I have learned of even more citizen concerns that I intend to work to address as your city councilwoman. With the current trends within the city, especially within District 3, we need a change of leadership. My fellow candidates and I will bring fresh leadership to our city. Many of us have observed from afar the various issues that have kept our city from growing to its full potential. From infrastructure to one of the most recent concerns, the opioid crisis. I have recently spoken with the coroner, and as of our conversation a few weeks ago, she and her team had worked 7 overdose deaths within the last year, as compared to a total of 2 last year. Not too long ago, there was an overdose a block behind me. This is not acceptable. This is happening where we live. This is happening where our children play. This is happening everywhere. This is not acceptable. This is a drain on personnel. This is a drain on resources. And this is a drain on Bluffton's quality of life. With my experience in EMS and hearing of my husband's experiences in law enforcement, I have a unique perspective on our city's situation. We have many wonderful resources to combat the opioid crisis in our area that are, in my opinion, underutilized. I look forward to working with my fellow candidates to represent our great city of Bluffton and the citizens of the city. Thank you.
What a great crowd. Thanks for coming tonight. Usually I'm behind the camera and behind the mic as Wells County Voice. We are an owner of Wells County Voice. We typically live stream these forums. But tonight, somehow, I'm here in the spotlight. So yes, my name is Scott Menser, a.k.a. or typically known as Dale's husband, the Wells County Voice guy, or maybe you've heard me do nearly 1,000 baseball, football, basketball, volleyball, softball, wrestling, tennis. I even did a live play-by-play of the Derby, or the diaper derby, in one of the Bluffton street fairs. But Wells County Voice is a labor of love. It does not pay the bills. I'm an electrical engineering graduate from Tri-State University. Immediately after graduating from Tri-State, I went to work in Huntington, Indiana at Wabash Magnetics. Within 15 years, I was vice president of engineering. Along the way, I earned my master's of business administration from the University of St. Francis. I then took a job in Bern as the director of engineering and operations for a $25 million business unit. In 2005, I joined 2 other entrepreneurs. We bought selected assets of a bankrupt manufacturing company. My wife and I pushed all of our assets in on this. We bet on ourselves. It is this leadership that has driven me to the vice president of sales and operations as a part owner of a manufacturing company. We've steadily grown, double-digit growth since 2005. I want to bring that leadership to Bluffton. I want to bring that growth to Bluffton. Growth demands leadership. Leadership demands accountability. Leadership demands people doing something that makes a consequential impact on our environment and our community. I believe I can do that, and that's why I'm in this race.
I'm Jim Philbaum, and I want to thank all of you for being here this evening, and particularly the city employees that came out to meet with us. I am the candidate who does not consider himself a politician. I've always thought of myself as a city servant, and that service started when I was a young man and was the chairman of the Downtown Retailers Association. Then I was appointed to the Alcoholic Beverage Board by a Republican mayor, Carl Goodwin. Education-wise, I have a degree in accounting. I hold a internationally recognized designation in the field of risk management. I completed a study in safety, all of which are helpful things when you deal with the business of the city of Bluffton. I have set some goals for myself And those include continuing the upgrade of infrastructure that we have started in the sewage collection system and the water filtration and distribution systems. I will emphasize the program for improvement of sidewalks, but not only in the residential districts, but also work with Bluffton now and see how we can begin to improve the sidewalks in downtown Bluffton. Here is one that may surprise you, but I hope that we can begin to address the need for us to have a 4-lane highway to Bluffton. We are the only county contiguous to Allen County that does not have a 4-way highway, and if you go out in the industrial park at certain times of the day, you will see why I think we need that when the truck traffic that is out there.
Okay, thank you very much for your opening statements. We will proceed here to question 1, and Rick, you will be up first. I will
Yippee.
start with your statement and then follow up with the question for you.
Fair enough.
100% of our unbudgeted seated dollars, current and remaining, have been committed to existing utility upgrades for projects. Moving forward, what is your plan to fund quality of place and economic development projects with little seated funds available?
Okay, well, that's a good question. There's been a transition in the way that funding works. CEDAT has been with us for a long time. We've experienced some growth and development in that. There's some other avenues. There's talk of opportunity zones if we meet the requirements. The federal government has lined out certain prerequisites you must meet to form an opportunity zone. I know that's one of the options that we've talked about on the table. Also, additional TIF funds as a possibility. Of course, TIF is kind of the replacement for CEDAT, but I think that there's room there to move on that as well. The Adams Street project is one that's been funded by that, and I think there's some others that are on the table. I think that some additional funding from the federal government in the form of these opportunity zone and TIF projects might be something that we could do to address that. That's it.
Same question? Well, again, I would concur. The TIF districts and the opportunity zones are one way to fund it. I think there's also grants available, and I know that there's been talk of maybe needing a grant writer for the city to look for monies that are out there. I think you can look at public and private partnerships as a way to fund some of those programs. You can always look at the different income tax structures to see if they can also be helpful in funding projects. And obviously, a big one that we don't like to talk about is rate increases. And rate increases are something that are funding a lot of the infrastructure that we're doing at this point.
Thank you for the question. I want to begin by a realistic look at where we are with our utilities. Probably not known to all is the fact that our water department, our water fund, will owe $1.6 million to the electric fund before we collect $1 from the bond issue we're issuing. Our sewer department owes about $860,000 to the electric department. I think we've got to begin by taking a realistic look and saying, what should the rates be? Because if we're paying that much extra in electric, not everyone who uses a lot of electric uses a lot of water or generates a lot of sewage. So I'm a big believer that we take a hard look at that. We get some experts to take a look with us. I am applauding John Wicker's theme, progress through partnerships. Tom mentioned it. I want to emphasize it. We've had some experience in the last year of attempting to go that direction. I want to tell you that that potential remains. When you find an amenity that people want, the dollars come to join the tax dollars. Not a big fan of raising rates or taxes, but I am a big fan of saying, here's what the cost's going to be. Let's be upfront with it, and let's be direct with it. And if a rate has to be increased, let's talk about why. Let's do it in a timely fashion, but we ought not to be borrowing money to pay back borrowed money for operations. That's not the way to run a system, and I hope we get away from that very, very soon.
I got the opportunity to serve on Bluffton now for about 5 years, and I saw this firsthand where we missed a lot of opportunities for quality of life because we did not have shovel-ready projects ready. I watched communities all throughout Northeast Indiana utilize funds from Indianapolis that was put out there for quality of life. Fort Wayne is just, they're taking a lot of that money because they're way ahead of us, and they have a lot more resources. So I think, A, you have to have the shovel-ready project ready to go. But I think this community has demonstrated when it has a good shovel-ready project ready to go that, just like Roger said, the money will come. If people like the project and they believe in the project, the funds will come. They'll come publicly, they'll come privately, they'll come from corporations. I think people sometimes are afraid to ask, but when someone says, you know what, I like that idea, and they see the ball roll a couple times, you'd be surprised what will happen as a result of that. So I really think that shovel-ready projects is the first place to start.
Would you like me to repeat the question?
Rick, would you please repeat the question for me?
100% of our unbudgeted CEDAT dollars, current and remaining, have been committed to existing utility upgrades for projects. Moving forward, what are your plans to fund quality of place and economic development projects with little CEDAT funds available?
Well, my understanding is that the wastewater project that's going to the north is using CEDAT money. I think Josh has a point with the shovel ready. When I talked to our electric and our different utility people, they have in place, ready to go, projects to increase electrical power and the water lines that are going in, the new water plant to the south, the water filtration plant, and the loops that they're putting into the south will make it more readily available for the industries that want to be in that industrial area, Adams Street and Western Avenue and out in that area. So I guess that would be my direction, is that we need to continue to work with our utility people, give them the equipment that they need to get their plants going, and their electrical and the water and the sewage is all going to come together. Those things are currently in process. Just because we don't necessarily see it happening right now, that doesn't mean that they're not working on it and that it's not getting done. Thank you.
Timing has a lot to do with how our CEDAT money is planned out. And, of course, every year more CEDAT money comes in. So we do have to look down the road, try to anticipate what will be coming, whether it be in the next 1 or 2 or 3 years. That is planned out. But as funds become available, we look at the next round of projects and move forward from there. TIF district, the first and only one that we have is the Industrial Park West, Adams Street corridor out there. That has worked out well. So, as mentioned, there are other avenues that we can get funding. the city is solvent and has been judicious in the way we plan out what will be needed in the years to come. So, yeah, I think we have the means to continue the same kind of growth as we go forward. When interdepartmental loans are made, they're paid back. We meet all of the state's requirements at the end of the year. So, in a partnership with the private sector and free enterprise, we've been able to keep these projects going and in process.
To be completely honest, before I started all of this, I was not very familiar with TIF and seeded at all. So I've done a lot of research within the last several months. And I feel like I'm going to echo pretty much what everybody said up here. I've been researching a lot of the TIF districts, and I see a lot of cities using TIF districts very creatively, and I would like to see that explored more within our city. I understand that they can be controversial, and some are very successful. But I think it would be a good idea to open that dialogue to the public, like people are saying, the public, to work with them. Again, the grants is another great option. I think, like someone said, they had talked about a grant writer, hiring a grant writer for the city. I think that's a really great option. But we do have options. There's a lot out there. I don't know how much are being explored, but I see a lot of cities using the TIF in very creative ways to grow their city, and I think that's something that needs to be explored more.
I think the first part of your question really needs to be, how did we get in this situation to begin with? How do we get in a situation where all of our seeded money is going to the Northern Sewer Project? To me, that is fundamentally a lack of planning on our city infrastructure. We should be anticipating capacity needs and not put ourselves in a situation where we're going to spend our entire seeded budget on one project for our utilities. So that's number one. Number two, specifically, I hope we get to talk about TIF in a separate discussion, but let's just talk about seeded money. Seeded money is for economic development. My priority is jobs. Now, there's some controversy here of whether we ought to focus on retaining jobs or growing jobs, and I say we can do both. First, let's recognize that 3,000 people leave Wells County to go work elsewhere. Only 700 people come outside Wells County to work here. So let's all set a goal. Let's all set a goal that in our next term that we decrease the number of people having to leave our county and increase the number of people having to come to our county. If we can do that by 10%, either way, we generate 370 net jobs. In terms of seeded money, there's lots of ways we can spend seeded money. But I would offer this to you. For less than $5,000, we can put someone through an operator CNC programming class through Ivy Tech. That normally will raise the wages of that employee to over almost $25 an hour. It'll give an added skill set to an employer in town in need. That will raise the standard of living for that person. It'll increase the productivity of our job base, and it'll allow a retention of jobs, and it will show future employees that we intend to grow jobs.
First of all, we need not forget that seeded money is used to fund our economic development department, which is a joint effort between the county and the city. And that is the first place that seeded money should go anytime. I'd like to address the implication that was said that we did something wrong when one utility borrowed from another utility. That is a common practice throughout the state of Indiana. It is one that's approved by the State Board of Accounts, and that money will be returned to the electric department. Our electric rates are the electricity that comes in your home is the same electricity that comes into a home of people that have an I&M service, and our rates are less than those. So the implication that our rates are high is not correct in my mind. When CEDAR money is available, I agree. We should use it to begin to develop programs that would create jobs here and help educate the people that would fill those jobs.
Presently, CEDA funds are at $2.9 million. Of that, 2.2 is designated for the Dustbin Road Sewer Project. That's not all of CEDA dollars. We still pay the chamber their annual percentage. We still budget for other services. We leave $100,000 there. We still have a budget for downtown revitalization and our 2-to-1 program. There's still $100,000 for that. There is demolition of buildings that we've added in there because we've had to have a building inspector and we've had to do some demolition, so we've set aside dollars to do that. Interurban trail, we've set up, there's $200,000 there for trail use yet. So using all of the CEDA dollars based upon one Dustbin Road project is not quite accurate because we did not use all of them. And then remember, in 2020, CEDA money will be deposited again from the county. So it's a fund that continues to come in. We were good stewards to build it in order so that we could do a big project of an upgrade of a sewer line without having to do a bond issue or borrow from it. And pay off another bond issue because we knew we had the water filtration plant also coming up to do. So you don't want to stretch your bond abilities out too far. There are other avenues. We've used TIF, has been successful for Adams Street construction. You have to be careful with TIF. It's for infrastructure building. You just can't, in economic development, there's some restrictions on how you can use TIF money. So it's not like you can go and beautify something. TIF is restricted in some respects. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, candidates. We will go down to question number 2, and we're going to expand a little bit on this loan from the electric company, or to the electric company, to the water utility department, and this statement is that the city electric company has loaned $1.6 billion to the water utility department. That indicates that rates are neither supporting or existing operations nor building reserves for growth. How do you intend to address these issues? Tom, start.
I'll have to be real honest. I have no idea. I am not on city council. I do not work with the city budgets. I do understand school budgets to a certain degree, but I do think that the loaning process is a common process throughout. It's through you borrow from one fund to another fund, but I don't see any reason that we have any worry because I don't see that we're in a situation where we aren't solvent as a corporation. So, but I am pretty ignorant when it comes to budgets and how they work in the city.
I've taught school finance and school facility planning numerous times. There's a great connection between school operations and city operations in terms of taxes and so on. I concur. There's nothing legally wrong with borrowing money, though I question the length of time we're taking to pay back the sewer loan to the electric department. Far too long, in my opinion. I also want to indicate I don't believe that the electric rates are too high. I think if we're accruing money there to get ready for a new substation, if a station goes out and we've got to replace it, I have no problem with the reserves being there. My point is that we seem to have shied away from addressing increasing the rates. Some would suggest and have suggested that might be because an election was coming. I want to say it very clearly, that's not my belief. It is why I say in point 4 of putting vision into practice that I think we need to do a better job of getting experts here to address the council and the mayor to say, here is what's coming long term, what are your dreams, visions, what do you want to be able to do, and then get ready to do that. I think that setting rates, whether it be tax rates, as in a school superintendent for 25 years, I understand there can be some pushback on that, and some of it gets a little heavy. But one of the things that we have to do is teach better, I think, to share with our citizens, here's what's coming, here's why, let's get together on this vision and what we're going to do. And I think that's going to bring a more timely arrival of sewer increases or water increases or whatever. Again, great job in the electric department. I'm glad we're accruing some money. I hope that it's all paid back by the time we need it.
I feel that each type of business within the city needs to be able to stand alone. My parents have multiple businesses. Sometimes money shifts. That's normal. It's normal practice. You make it work. But long term, each silo needs to be able to stand alone on its own. All the more reason to grow. You either share your expenses with a smaller amount of people or you grow and you get more customers. That's what helps on the income side. So I think, just like I talked about earlier, you got to be able to set goals for each department, short, intermediate, and long-term goals. If you know you have a medium expense or a large expense coming, you need to be ready for it. You know, the water department, that's 50-year-old structure that we replaced, and we had to borrow for it. So I got to believe that we would have known that we had to work on that previously. So I really think a lot of planning needs to be involved. And it's not going to be perfect. You know, we set out plans every year and we adjust. So if you lay out the numbers, look at it, if the rates need to increase, they need to increase. I'm not afraid to say it. The money's either there or it's not. So if you're afraid to increase rates where you need to, then you shouldn't sit at this table.
Back to Melanie. So who's it go to, Rick?
I think I'm up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm up next. Yeah. I think our electric department has done a fantastic job at keeping the rates manageable and budgeting the money the way they feel is appropriate. We haven't had an increase. We had to increase water rates this year, 60% increase. Not one person in my district that I have talked to has said anything about that increase affecting their bills. So we need to look at that. Maybe there will be another water increase next year again. And Jim, when I jumped into this ring, Jim Philibom had offered me a look at a municipal handbook that's about 3 inches thick, and I don't know how many hundreds of pages, that I have not pursued reading all the chapters in that. But the fact that the utilities do loan money back and forth between one another is something that is commonly done, from my understanding, in the state of Indiana. That's not an unusual thing to have happen. So I would just like to say I think our electric department has done a fantastic job at keeping our electric rates low. If a slight increase is needed in order to compensate for back and forth, then I think people are willing to do a small increase if that's going to help to increase the city coffers.
No, I think we're okay. As we talked about, the interdepartmental loans is common, and those get paid back and handled. Regarding, we were talking more about electric department, I believe.
The electric department loaned 1.6 to the water utility department, correct?
Okay. When we're looking at growth, and the more the city spreads out, there's more expense obviously involved there to get the utilities to those folks. We can look more at when we say grow the city, we don't necessarily have to grow our boundaries. That's bound to happen. But we can also utilize all the area that we have available within the city to have, whether it's more industry, more housing, whatever it might be, that will pay towards those rates, and the infrastructure is already there. And I think that's one thing that we can do. We have in Central City, District 3, we've been able to tear down houses that are run down. That's not always a large enough lot where we can emphasize new homes. I would like to see a little more of that done. But I think that's one way by improving our growth within our boundaries, we can add to that the incoming funds for those utilities without having a lot of additional expense for the infrastructure that's needed there.
I have to agree. The electric department has done a fantastic job. However, I've had an opposite experience of what Nancy had in her district. This is a huge concern for the citizens of District 3. A lot of people in my district, even a slight increase could make or break them any given week. So this is a huge concern for me. Obviously, it is a common practice, which is fine, and we do need to grow. Like Josh says, if we want to grow, we have to pay. That's fine. I think we need to, really explore different options than what we've been doing. I don't think anybody should have to choose between keeping their electric on and if babies are going to have diapers. This is a huge concern within my district. I've seen it over and over again. So, like I think Tom said, I'm not 100% familiar with the budget. I've gone over it. I've gotten the same book that I think everybody's gotten, and I've gone through those pages. And I think we have to come up with something that's different, that's going to work for our city, because we do need these changes. We do need that growth. We have to grow. But we also have to remember the citizens. They have to have that quality of life. That's just a given.
The city runs 3 businesses: water, sewer, and electric. As a business owner, those 3 businesses have the cash flow. And the fact that we're borrowing money from one another, I don't think is acceptable. It may be legal. You may be able to do it, but I don't think it's proper. And right now, citizens are facing a 60% increase in water. That's not acceptable either. I can't go to my customers in the next year and say I'm raising my prices 60%. They will turn my business away. All of our city utilities get audited every year. I've read those past audits. We could have foreseen these increases years ago. We opted not to. That's just reality. We were spending all of our seeded money, not all of it, excuse me, Melanie, the bulk of it.
Thank you.
We're spending the bulk of our seeded money for sewer expansion up north, and now we just borrowed over $10 million to upgrade our water system. That is a lack of planning, it's a lack of foresight, and it's kicking the can down the road. And as a business owner, I can't afford to do that, or I won't stay in business. And we need to treat our city utilities like they're a business. They have to be able to cash flow, and if you're going to borrow money, that money needs to be able to cash flow. And to borrow one from the other, I don't think is right. It's a lack of management, and it's a lack of leadership. And that may be offensive to some, but I think that's reality, and I think we can do better.
In my opinion, I think we have an excellent public utility network. And there's comments been made about the money that was loaned from the electric department to the water department. And again, that is an acceptable practice in municipal utility management. We are looking at what we need to do to upgrade the substations, and that money will soon be back in the account that it came from, and we will begin to address the need to improve some of the substations that we have. Another thing that we have done, we are a member of a group of cities and towns from Michigan and Indiana who have collectively buy electricity from the supplier, and we've been doing that through I&M, and we've now moved to, and will be sometime next year going to another provider, and hopefully that will even give us more money to upgrade the electric department.
Jim pretty well said what I was going to say. That's the Wolverine Co-op out of Southwest Michigan. We will join 7 other cities. 6 are from Indiana on that co-op to help stabilize your electric rates. I don't know if many of you know, when you get the bill from I&M, many times they have what, of course, they service to you, and then there'll be a true-up in the middle of that bill. And that true-up, because they missed the estimate, they didn't quite get it right on the previous bill, so they want their money. So they call it a true-up. Now that true-up can range from $600,000 to $700,000 to $800,000, which skyrockets the I&M bill up. You pay that bill probably about 60 days later. That's why you see where you're running your air conditioners maybe in July, but you still have a high bill in September when you didn't run the air conditioner that long. But that takes about 60 days because part of it is because of I&M's billing, and I have been adamant about that since I've been on council. Unbelievable. How does any business of I&M in that capacity miss that much of an estimate? And then we have to pay it. We have to pass it on to you. Wolverine Co-op hopefully will stabilize those bills. We won't see that true up, and therefore keep your rates either at that steady or even possibly, I hate to be on film on this, but perhaps lower those electric rates. I did not like to increase water rates, but we need to build a new plant. And I have made sure that was structured out and not hit the Baker Tilly wanted us to hit you at once. I refused to do that. I wanted to structure that over a 3 period to divide it down to a third to help lower that ease for households to get used to the idea. My bill went up only $5, but I'm a single household. Family, I'm sure, was higher. But we try to keep those rates knowing what a person has to pay for that household.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I think the electric rates really weren't in question here. It was the loan from the electric to the water. You know, it's interesting. In my business that we run, we do a lot with technology, high technology, and we install a lot of commercial grade, latest tech stuff. And I always tell my guys, I said, you know, here's the thing. If you get out in the field, because we're working with new stuff that comes out of the box all the time, and sometimes it works well, and we all know technology. Sometimes it doesn't work well. I said, if you spend more than 10 minutes, call somebody. Call the manufacturer, get an engineer on the phone, bring an expert in. So where I'm going with this, the meeting that they had, the council meeting to talk about the water rates and the bond issue, and I believe the rep from Baker Tilly was there, and I was a little taken back by how he started his presentation, because what he said was, he said, look, I know we have this water plant upgrade over here, this $15 million. And he goes, well, let's just table that for a second, and let's look at where you are right now. I believe the point he made, if he didn't say it verbatim, was you really need to raise rates tonight because you're not taking in enough to compensate for what you're spending. I believe those were his words, and he gave some numbers. We didn't have, sitting out in the audience, we didn't have the exact number sheet that the council did, but I was shocked because I made notes. I was like, what? Really? I learned a long time ago that you get smart people around you when you don't know everything. That's just how you make good business. I can't pretend to know everything about the workings of the council or what the rates have done, but I do know what the Baker-Tilly expert said. He said, you should have been incrementally raising rates 12 years ago. Those were his words. So maybe the practice of loaning from one department to another is legal and acceptable, and I get that. I'm in business. Sometimes you need to move money around to get things done. I am concerned, however, the fact that we had to have that discussion before we even got to the water plant upgrade that told us we were kind of a little more trouble than we thought we were. Thank you.
Okay, on to question number 3. And this is a quality of place question. And we will start with Roger here on this. Okay, since the community reinvestment program was created, over $1 million in projects have been completed in downtown, helping over 20 different property owners and businesses. Is this program something you will continue to support, and will you advocate for yearly funding of $100,000 if elected? And if not, what are your plans for supporting downtown?
Thank you for the question. I absolutely believe that downtown has to continue to prosper. Until I look at a specific budget, I don't want to commit to a particular number, but I wouldn't see us lessening our commitment. I'd like to broaden that commitment. I think that throughout the city of Bluffton, there needs to be equity in how monies are spent. I obviously am referring to the park and parks throughout the city. We tend to forget that the proposal that we put forth had soccer fields in it, be the first soccer fields in Bluffton for kids to play on, had playground, had picnic area, had pickleball courts, had so much. I think in the paying for those, we need to understand, again, and I don't want to put this on John's back, but I applaud him for it, progress through partnerships. This isn't something we have to do alone. We saw in the Now Project, we see in a variety of things that individuals, businesses, it's not all about taxing people and just using public money, it's about combining it. So not only do I want to see us to continue to improve that quality of life downtown, but I want to see it spread throughout the city of Bluffton. I'd like District 1 to become a part of that. And we appreciate the interurban trail, but now we've got to work on getting people on the east side of Highway 1 across to the trail. And we've begun working with some city folks, state representative, state senator, to get that done. So I'd like to see those amenities available to all. And certainly, let's continue what we're doing well.
The Community Reinvestment Program, that's pretty near and dear to my heart. I was in the council meeting when we originally asked for that money. And to see the progress that's done downtown. Downtown was in a bad spot, and it was really heartbreaking. And when I look at it now and I see improvement and I see people feel like they have an energy, I see new businesses coming in, I feel a vibe down there that I didn't see before. So I'm totally for that program to continue. And I think you have to look at it. I mean, there's been a lot of dollars put out, and we've seen a return, but it needs to be measured. I mean, it's not something I'm not just going to say, yeah, keep going forever. I mean, we got to look at it. There might be a time, hopefully, that it's sustainable, and we don't have to fund it $100,000 a year to give it a boost. So I think it's worth it. When industry comes to a community, they go downtown and they see what's your quality of life. That's one of those things. They want to see what do you think about your community? What's your pride level at? Decatur's been working for 10 years on their downtown, and you can see the difference between a 5-year product and a 10-year product. So I'm completely in support of it, but I don't think it needs to live forever. If we can be self-sustaining down there with the investment that we've made, then maybe we wouldn't have to make it in the future.
Yes, I think it's been a good program, too. That $100,000, I believe in the very beginning there maybe weren't enough guidelines on how that $100,000 should be invested for the different businesses. But that's been rectified, and I think it looks like it's been put to good use. I know the Plaza project is not Mike Jr. All by himself. There were a lot of people that worked on that and worked hard to get that to fruition, and it's beautiful. There are businesses downtown. Things are turning around. I think we also need to think about all the small businesses that are in Bluffton. They're not all downtown. There is a lot of the frontage, the storefronts downtown are filling up, which is great. I'm all about small business. That's where I've been my whole life. There maybe are a few that are not as desirable as others. Store hours and taking up space on the ground floor if you're not going to be open is not necessarily a good way to have the businesses down there. So maybe if we can look at trying to rectify that situation too. But I think quality of life in Bluffton, for the most part, is really very good. I would like to see us continue with that, the Bluffton Now. I think they're doing a great job downtown, and I'm in support of that. Thank you.
Yes, the Bluffton Now has been a very good addition and a good group of people working on that. As mentioned, industry looks at your downtown. The monies that the city puts into that is seeded money. That's a good use of that fund. So I would like to see that continue. And Josh used a good word with at some point maybe sustain itself. You might remember 25 years ago or so, Bluffton went through a revitalization phase. And that was good. Probably needed to have some ongoing plan to work off of that to keep it going. Now, retail economy in the downtowns, a lot of that is driven by competition, and that's where we've seen a decline from the mom and pop locally owned retail establishments, but that's coming back in a different form, and offices, professional, so forth. So it is nice to see that coming to fruition with still a lot yet to do. The guidelines that were put in place as we learned in working with Bluffton Now, that's been good so that we can benefit that small business owner and help them improve their facility, the outside, the facades, and make it more appealing, more eye appeal, and that can only be good in the long run.
I absolutely support the CRP. It's fantastic. I've sat on the Bluffton Now board for the past about year, so it's great to see everything that the CRP has benefited. I recently sat down with a few downtown small business owners and heard their concerns and heard how things were going with them, and they would love to see the downtown grow more. So I'm absolutely in favor of the CRP project, and I think, as somebody said, maybe even expanding that. While we have this great momentum, and the plaza has been a great catalyst for downtown growth, I don't want to forget about our neighborhoods. With the plaza project coming to an end, what's our next big project? What can we use that CRP for? I think we need to come up with creative uses for those funds moving forward, and not forgetting, as someone mentioned, the small businesses on the outskirts of town. Bringing those in, and not forgetting our neighborhoods.
I'll go out on a limb. Not only do I think we should continue funding CRP at least $100,000, I think we should expand it. I mean, what we are asking these businesses to do to move downtown is to take a risk. Businesses are moving north at a rapid pace, and that's good. I want our businesses to grow north. But we are asking businesses to move downtown in an area that may not be as attractive as it might look uptown. And in order to incentivize them, I think the CRP is an appropriate measure. It is progress through partnership, which is what John is promoting. And I think that's appropriate. I think it's helpful. And I think we should embrace it. Look at the Plaza celebration. There were a lot of people who were not as positive about the Plaza. But I'll tell you what, when they went down to that celebration, when they saw that ribbon cutting, when they saw food trucks on the court, there were a lot of opinions changed. And I think we should embrace that, we should expand that, and we should not be afraid to be more forward-seeking. We can build something better. I've been to Decatur. You go down to Decatur, I'll tell you a quick story. My wife and I went down to Decatur with her brother. We went and we had dinner at a great barbecue place. After we had barbecue, there was entertainment downtown. We stopped by, we had ice cream. And you know what we saw when we were downtown Decatur? About 12 people from Bluffton. CRP can bring those people back to our downtown. It's $100,000 when we have budgets that are well in the $20 million range when we look at all of our budgets together. It is a prize, and we should embrace it.
I echo the comments of everyone here about this program. I think one of the things that I mentioned before that we need to do is to start to address some things downtown. It's always been the practice to make the property owners maintain and the sidewalks. I think we need to take a good look at that. And I'd like to see the whole program extended to it, incorporate the riverfront, and start to do some things to beautify our riverfront.
I echo everything that is said here. I'm a full supporter of the CRP program. In fact, I helped get that going. In fact, a couple of times Mike Jr. came back and says, well, you know, I got a couple of businesses here that we already used $100,000, and I said, well, who are they? And I said, well, these need to be done. So I've authorized even more funding in those years in order to get those businesses up and running. Buildings needed to be repaired. That's what the CRP needed and started to do. The lighting, everything is not only just the plaza. I also authorized us to give the seed money for engineering costs for the plaza that they did not have Bluffton now. So I authorized that. So I'm full supporter. I agree with Josh. Hopefully someday it'll be sustainable by itself. But until then, as I've noted, we've still set aside CETA funding of $100,000 to keep this program going.
So I know that you're anxious to hear the mayor candidates, so I'll keep my response brief. I agree. It's a great program. I think that we do need to check and balance it and just make sure that it is still a relevant program as we move forward. But right now, I think it absolutely is. And if elected, along with the other council, I would certainly authorize use of the monies for that. I can't say enough about what it's done. The plaza's fantastic. The businesses that are popping up now. Have you been to American Salvage Company? Holy cow, that's cool. And it is. And, you know, I mean, that's American Pickers stuff right there. You could see that on some cable channel somewhere. But these things wouldn't happen if we didn't continue this mindset moving forward. But the point that we get to when it looks like it's just not effective anymore, let's redirect and do something else. Thank you.
I, too, would concur with what many have said about the plaza and the redevelopment monies. I would even agree with Scott. I don't think $100,000 is probably enough. I've lived in this community 48 years, and I remember the time when we thought it was neat to put that siding up, and then we had Parlor City Trophy take it down. It's a cycle. But one of the things I couldn't help but notice when we had the plaza opening that I just really enjoyed looking at the ribbon cutting ceremony. And those were citizens of this community. They weren't Republicans or Democrats. They were citizens of this community that got something done. And that's what it's really about. I think we have a lot of opportunity to also look at what the tourism study, and I don't know if we're going to have questions on that. They talked about farmers markets and things like that could generate people coming to Bluffton, people coming downtown, having a permanent setting. So I think it's had a wonderful opportunity. I think it's done great things, and I think it has a lot of other things that it could do.
Okay, thank you, candidates. It is 8:11, and Aaron told me that if we were done by 8:10, she'd have snacks for us, so we messed up on that one.
Oh, baby.
So that is the last question, and you guys can move down to your seats, and we will ask the mayor and come up now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm stuck, Roger. I'm stuck on a leg. There you go. Thanks.
Put it on your locker. Okay. I'm sentimental like that.
One more time for everybody.
Okay, so do you want to flip a coin, or do you want to go by last name?
I don't care.
I'm sorry. Or do you want to?
I don't have a coin. Who takes first question? Is that you?
Yeah. So we'll begin with opening statements. So you're going to go by last name out the order, or do you want to?
I will give it to John.
Okay. All right. John, then I'm going to have you. I'm going to have you guys switch.
Okay.
So it's not going to be the audience. Yeah, you're on the microphone, so there's some water for you.
Okay.
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 Okay, John and Chuck, we'll get started here. And I'm going to say rules apply. You guys understand that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we will start with opening statements. John, you want to start?
Yes, thank you.
appreciate the opportunity to come before this group. I would like to ask Mike Crasham to do one thing. Mike, if you start seeing people to doze off, would you nudge them? I mean, we've been here an hour, listened to all the politicians. Anyway. Well, the mayor of the city of Bluffton is really charged with the oversight of heavily regulated monopolies. I want to repeat that. Heavily regulated monopolies. If you want police, you call the Bluffton Police Department. If you got a chuck hole that needs filled, you don't go on the internet and Google fillmypothole.com. You call the Bluffton Street Department, and I can go on and on and on. If you want a new building permit, there's a guy sitting back there by the name of Ted Smith. You're going to have to call him. Or I'd rather call Kim, but anyway. But given my background, I had 25 years in private industry. I finished my career here at Mormons as general manager in charge of the plant here, also responsible for warehouses in Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. I decided to make a career change, and did I make a career change? I went to work for Bi-County Services as their president, and at the time they were looking for someone with business experience to take care of the thumbs-up issues, which we did. It was a great run. I had a Bi-County. Also, Jolyn and I bought Thumbs Up Love and Safety in 1998, had a great run there. But my key to success has been the people that have elevated me in a big way. It's the employees that do the work. It's the CEOs that get the credit. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming tonight. I appreciate this opportunity. My beautiful wife, Tammy, and I have lived on Main Street for over 35 years. We raised our daughter here. All three of us graduated from Bluffton High School. Tammy and I have made a very good living working just down the street from where we live. She at the hospital, I at the Bluffton News Banner and Rim Chisel Ford. Our very large front porch, which we often use, oversees the city and its main artery. To say we feel connected to the city and its people is an understatement. Between Tammy and I, we have led or been a part of no less than 13 local organizations over the years. Public service is in our heart and in our soul. We are asking you for the chance to lead and grow our Parlor City over the next 4 years. And if elected, community enhancement would be my focus for the next 4 years. Raising quality of life through parks and recreation, elevating our creative arts presence, and modernizing our local traffic flow, I feel is the right path to our growth. And I've told dozens, probably hundreds of people this, but I truly feel like this path that I'm on now has been led by my Lord and Savior. I truly believe God has led me to this point. So, thank you.
Thank you, candidates. We will move on to the questions now. We have some very open-ended questions. We have some specific questions. So hopefully we don't stump you too much and we can get some good responses out of you. Question number one. What's your vision for Bluffton in the next 4 years? What is your plan to get there? Chuck.
I have 4 initiatives I feel will help move the city forward. We must continue to make ourselves more attractive by using community programming and public-private partnerships. We can enhance our quality of life and quality of place as we have with the Parlor City Plaza, the State Park Fire Tower, and our trails. We must market ourselves more efficiently, starting with a tourism office, a tourism council. A one-point source to collect, advertise, and market what is Bluffton and what is Wells County. We need new ingress and egress signage at 6 points in the city. State Road 1, both ends. State Road 124, both ends. State Roads 116, both ends. We must improve our decaying sidewalks and improve our walkability. Quality of place, quality of life will be my focus. Thank you.
Okay. I feel like it's my job as mayor is to operate the city entities as efficiently as possible. Some of my goals are going to be, number one, in the area of public safety, is to do all we can to improve the number of candidates, qualified candidates that we have for our police and fire departments. The last I knew, we had 7 openings in the fire department. We're having trouble filling those positions. And the last police officer we hired, it was a journey. And I think it's important from the public safety aspect that we are able to recruit and retain our police and fire officers. On the utility side, excuse me, we need to continue to work at a program where we specifically set so much money aside every year to replace aged water mains. I was at a conference in French Lick last August. It is estimated that in the state of Indiana, in the next 20 years, there's going to be the need to spend $17.5 billion on aging infrastructure throughout the state. That's real money. And we need to get in front of that and make sure we have a plan in place where we can replace rather than react by water main breaks. We need to stay in front of things and not lead from behind.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to question number 2. The current census data indicates that Bluffton will have a population over 10,000 people. Therefore, designate the city as an MS4 community, which means that there are higher standards for water quality, wastewater, and combined sewer overflow. How do you plan to administer the MS4 designation?
Well, I think the answer to that, Rick, is to start now. Let's not wait till we get the letter. Let's get started now. In fact, I've had a couple of conversations with some of the county officials that are in front of this position of how we're going to handle the stormwater issue. It's a multifaceted process of how to deal with storm drainage. And we need to know what our options are. There's organizational issues. Should the stormwater folks be a separate department, or should it be included in the umbrella of the wastewater department? I know, for example, the city of Decatur has a stormwater department, and on their utility bill, there's a separate line for stormwater charges. That's probably going to have to happen, but it's something new. It's another one of these new regulations. That's not all bad. We need to keep the bad stuff out of our streams and rivers. We need to do that, but it's coming at a price, and we are going to have to pony up here when that happens, and it's going to be sooner rather than later.
We don't know what we don't know. The mandate hasn't come yet. But I agree with Mr. Wicker that we need to get in front of it. We need to be learning about it. My understanding is we will either combine with our sewage treatment facility now that we have, or possibly make a whole new entity, a new service entity in the city. That's really all I have to say right now.
Thank you. Okay, question number 3. What kind of quality of place projects do you envision, and how do you plan for those to be funded?
My priority right now would be the interurban trail extension. We've started our trails group, which is incorporated now, soon to be a 501c3. We've got some extensions that we're working on. We're also working on some riverfront public access sites here locally. I think both those are major. Our downtown revitalization has still got quite a ways to go with our CRP. I think those are the major points right now.
I guess one of the questions I would ask, Rick, quality of place for who? We talking about the 20-somethings? We talking about the 40-somethings that have kids? Or we talk about us old geezers? But to your question, we need to be looking at all the folks in our up and down our spectrum for the quality of place efforts. We have to form partnerships for that to happen. We have to work together. You know, one of the things that's amazing about Bluffton is the amount of work and the great projects that have come from volunteers. Hasn't come from the city, hasn't come from the county, it has come from volunteers. Now's a perfect example. I was thinking the other day, Mark Miller and I, when we were in Rotary, co-chaired the project for Kehoe Park. And every time I sit there, I remember all the stuff that we went through, the agony, the price just kept going up and up and up. And I'll never forget, Pam will remember, when we put the canopy on the stage, it was hotter than blue blazes, and I'll never forget that. But what a great thing that has been for the city of Bluffton. But again, it was a volunteer effort from the Bluffton Rotary Club. And those are the kinds of things and partnerships that make things happen in communities. And that's true throughout the United States. It's a small town group that gets together and they get things done. And I've been proud to be part of several of these projects, and it's very rewarding. Thank you.
Hey, I will reemphasize that if anybody in the audience has a question, you can submit that to Chad still back here. You can still submit that back here for me or would like to. Okay, we'll move on to question number 4, and this is a repeat question from what we asked the council. Since the CRP program was created, over $1 million in projects have been completed in the downtown, helping over 20 different property owners and businesses. Is this program something you will continue to support, and will you advocate the funding of $100,000 plus minus if elected, and if not, what are your plans for supporting downtown?
Right. Okay, Rick, I support the CRP program. I think it's been a great program. Again, it shows what partnerships can do. 2 organizations getting together. The NOW group was administering the money, but the city was putting in the money. It was not a giveaway program. It was matching funds. Not only did the city have skin in the game, so did the owners of the property. And that's a great partnership. And I would love to see that continue.
I, too. I totally endorse the 100,000. I would want to expand that also. There's so many things that need to be done in our community. Sidewalks, just many things. We've talked about actually having a downtown TIF program that we've looked at. John sat in on some of that too. We didn't go up that road yet, but we needed something to maybe replenish the CRP money, and we were looking there. But that's still a viable option. We're still looking at it. But without a doubt, the CRP program has been tremendous. And here again, as John says, it takes volunteers. I know Mike Downey and I, sitting back there, have worked days and days on certain projects as far as peeling plaster off of walls, putting park benches together and moving them around. Just many things like that we need to expand upon. Maybe even faith-based help in town advanced would be appropriate too. So yes, absolutely, we need to expand and utilize our CRP.
Okay, question number 5 here for both of you. Is there a role in city government in partnering with local schools and post-secondary education institutions to provide career and technical education on the local level?
Mine? Absolutely. I have worked on many projects the last few years with our Economic Development Office, Chad and Diane, and also our Chamber of Commerce Office, Aaron and Sarah. These people are driven to improve our city, our towns, and our county. They are the professionals in this field. I will continue to assist them, listen to them, and work hard to help them. Help us. I know Chad has worked diligently on many fronts to engage our schools and high school students in marketing, robotics, and manufacturing. I totally encourage and endorse this work, and I have helped where I can. We have escorted, chaperoned numerous kids, Bluffton kids, to different sites in Fort Wayne, Indiana Tech, some of the entrepreneurial places, the Atrium downtown in Fort Wayne. So absolutely, there's places for that, and I think we're doing that.
I feel it's important for classes to come here. By the time somebody drives to Fort Wayne, drives back, they've shot 2 hours. That 2 hours could be spent in a classroom or learning to weld or whatever it is. I want to go back and just re-emphasize there's some people sitting in this room, and they know who they are, that have volunteered their time to begin pushing for more activity in the vocational area. And we are going to see some results because they're a driven bunch of people. And we will continue to work on getting vocational and post-secondary subjects into our town. Janelle hit on something a while ago. As Jolene and I have walked neighborhoods, we have a lot of people in Bluffton, unfortunately, that are just having a hard time making ends meet. Now, one way they can get out of that situation is educating, making themselves more valuable in the workplace. I sat in on a session down at French Lick called Affordable Utilities. Someday, the issue of high-priced utilities is going to be a big burden to this city. It's a burden on the utility office trying to collect money. It puts a burden on people like Alan back there, who's been involved with disconnecting customers. That's stressful. And we need to work, again, in partnerships to help people, because these utility bills are not going to get smaller, folks. It costs more to run them. And so we need to get people to have better job skills for better paying jobs. I did have a question. Do we get a snack if we're... I mean, Chuck and I have done pretty good here in time-wise.
If we go past 8:50, I'll buy.
I think we're set up, Chuck.
Stop asking questions.
Just asking.
Staying on the job questions here, how about this one? With an unemployment rate of 2.5%, obviously very low, maybe an all-time low here for Wells County, and several hundred open positions, how will you attract qualified workers to fill these positions? John?
Well, first of all, I'd look at the somewhat 3,000 people going to Fort Wayne every day. That's my first choice. You know, they're right here. You know, so part of the burden, Rick, lays on the employers too. Because if I want to attract good people, then I'm sorry, I got to pay for them. And I think it's a two-way street. You know, there are plenty of people, like I said, driving to Fort Wayne every day. Maybe we need to put a little more carrot on the stick to get people to stay in Bluffton and work.
I'm going to read 3 findings from the housing study, and this will be pertinent. The workforce shortage is impacted by worker perception of family opportunities and quality of life issues. There does not appear to be a market driver locally that has or will generate growth in the Wells County market. That's finding 10 and finding 11. Finding 12 is the community's strengths and assets do not appear to be obvious to the prospective new resident and or worker. Quality of life factors also not obvious to many local residents. Here again, I go back to what I've been beating on the drum for a year now is quality of life, quality of place. We must market ourselves better than we do. We must have signage better than we do so that when people are coming into town, they actually know where they're coming into and where they're leaving from. What entities are here in this town to assist them to participate in. And here again, I'm going back to the tourism office. We need a one-spot shop to do our electronic communication, our gathering of information, our calendars, so that people don't have to search and it will be readily available. Thank you.
Okay, we have, I think one final question here. This is one that was submitted from the audience and actually one that we talked about at our meeting when we met to discuss questions. And it's this. Our citizens have designated locations to drop off unwanted medicine, but not an unwanted baby. Can the candidates please explain their position on Indiana safe haven law, and would you support financing the installation of a safe haven baby box on city property, provide training to city personnel and handling and response, and provide public information to crisis mothers in the community?
Absolutely. I would support that. I would find money no matter how hard it was to have that installed in our department. That's a no-brainer in my eyes. Can you repeat the question again, though? I got caught up in that.
Yeah. And it just basically said, our citizens have designated locations to drop off unwanted medicine, but not unwanted babies. And can you explain your position on this Indiana safe haven law? I don't even know what that is, but
Well, I do. I think most people do.
would you support financing for the installation of a safe haven baby box on city property?
Yes.
Maybe even where that
Yes,
would be at.
absolutely. And if I still got time, I'd like to expand upon that because I am a member of the Wells County Solid Waste Commission. Just recently, we do collect sharps. We do collect unused meds. We had, I'm going to be a little wrong, but somewhere between 15 and 18 full 55-gallon blue drums that we just had to go through here recently that were turned in meds, turned in sharps, which is just an overwhelmingly good project for us to be doing. I'm just happy to be a part of that. But yes, safe baby haven, absolutely, positively, no brainer. We would get that done.
I would be in favor of it. Rick, I think if I recall correctly, the ones that we have around here, I think maybe New Haven, but they're located in fire stations, which makes a lot of sense. they're staffed 24 hours a day, so it makes sense that that's where it should be stationed. And certainly there's nothing more valuable than a child's life or a human life, period. The sanctity of life is important. It should be important to our community. And if a mother just cannot see taking care of a child, then they should have an alternative to go to a safe haven and know that their child is going to be taken care of in the years ahead.
Okay, I want to ask one more question here. Totally off script, but when we think about health and community and all the overdoses and opioid abuse and just the drug problems, what do you guys feel like from the mayor's office that you can initiate or do to help that issue here in Bluffton? Yeah, John, you go first.
Okay. I'll tell you what, Rick, we've got a real problem. The problem is there's no consensus in the community on which direction we should head. We've got the prosecutor's office. They're charged with arresting people. We got folks like the Concerned Citizens for Drug Abuse, of which I'm proud to be a part of, trying to rehabilitate people. The faith-based programs have had a lot of success, as well as others. But somewhere there needs to be some point at which there's agreement. Either we're going to prosecute people or we're going to try to rehab them. We're trying to do both now, and it's not working. Not working at all. And people's lives are at stake. Somebody's brother, somebody's sister, somebody's dad, somebody's uncle. And it's all up and down the socioeconomic spectrum. And it is a problem. And probably we wouldn't believe some of the people who are really hooked on drugs. A lot of it comes from people getting drugs when they're in the hospital. Take these, you'll feel better. Well, next thing, I really need that, The prescription runs out. Well, I know a guy. I can get more painkillers, so it's down the road. So it's a multifaceted problem, and it's not an easy problem, and it's not an inexpensive problem to take care of. But again, society needs one voice on how we're going to deal with the opioid problem. We don't have it yet.
We can do more. We can do more to support our local for-profit and not-for-profit organizations to battle this disease, like our CADA, which I also have supported. Our group's recovery, our park center, our churches, and as John said, yes, that some of the church groups have been very successful in NA and AA. But I agree that rehab is the more successful route to take, not incarceration. And some problems are just bigger than a city, and I really look to our state and our federal government for help. We cannot do everything within the city limits of Bluffton with 10,000 people and our budgets. I really think we need to look outside of Bluffton and Wells County for that assistance. But without a doubt, rehab and prevention is much better than incarceration. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, we will close out here with your closing comments from each one of you, and then we will be done with these things. So, Jeff, you can go first.
I'll do my last rant right here. Security, stability, and growth. That is the bedrock of a great community, which we have seen here in Bluffton over the last 2 decades. Security. Bluffton was just named the safest city in Indiana by Security Baron, a web-based security review site. Part of that success is that we have approximately 2 2 police officers for every 1,000 residents. Stability. Bluffton has one of the lowest property tax rates in our area. Our water, electric, and sewage rates are of the lowest in the area. They are envious of other cities. Growth. Just this year, we see major expansions at 2020 Molded Plastics and Parlor City Warehouse. Each of those are 200,000 square foot expansions. In August, Metaldyne, American Axle, announced it is investing $75 million in our Bluffton facility. We can see it all over town. The new Parlor City Plaza, the new building for Bluffton Animal Clinic, and the major overhaul of Washington Park. But we still must step up our game. We have major work that needs to be completed. The new North Collector Sewer Line, the new water filtration facility, and the new North Water Tower. Here again, I've outlined my 4 initiatives I feel will help move the city forward. Most of those are quality of place and quality of life. Thank you.
One of the things I want to share with you is an observation I have come to see with Jolynn and I when we were campaigning door to door. You know, it's a lot different driving down streets at 30 miles an hour or 20 miles an hour. You sort of glance around at, you know, what's going by you. When you're on foot, you see neighborhoods for what they really are. I am very concerned about the number of homes and apartments that we walk by that there are times when I can't believe somebody's living there. We have a large segment of our population that is just absolutely struggling to make ends meet. It's a real concern because in any community, we're no different than a chain. The old saying goes, a chain is no stronger than its weakest link. I think a lot of agencies for what they do, you know, the Closet that's sponsored by Family Centered Services, the Bargain Hut, the Wells County Food Bank, the groups, the churches that do Kate's Kitchen, they do outreach, the United Way, the faith-based churches. Folks, we have to raise the level of everybody in Bluffton. And education is one of the keys to that. Post-secondary education, vocational training, those are the things that will help raise the level for all citizens. And make no mistake about it, it's out there. If you want to go campaigning sometime, we'll show you.
Okay, thank you very much, candidates. On behalf of the Wells County Chamber of Commerce and, of course, our candidates tonight, and for all of you for attending, we appreciate you coming out. I think it was a good evening, and I think one more time, let's show our appreciation.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, council representatives. Hope everybody gets out and votes on, what is it, November the 5th.
5th? Okay. Thank you.
What business do you own?